Hello. Welcome to episode 91 of the Productive Wellbeing Show and day 3 of our 12 Days of Christmas takeover that we are doing. And I am so delighted to have on today the candy magician and co-founder of Jealous Sweets, Imran Merza. So Imran, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for giving up your time today to talk to us all things sweets.
Thanks, Abigail. Really nice to be here to connect with your audience and to sort of share my journey of becoming a candy magician.
Amazing. So guys, as you are joining us, let us know where you're joining from. If you're watching on the replay, let us know on the replay where you are joining us from. Because we always have such an international audience. And I've got some questions for Imran, but any other questions that you've got, please ask these questions, because it's not every day that we get to speak to an entrepreneur who has pitched Richard Branson. I'm going to drop that in right from the start. This guy has pitched Rich, and he's going to tell you about that in a bit. So let me just check. I can see you all coming on. So this is so cool. Let's see what's going on LinkedIn. Oh, everything 2020. Everything is a bit slow today.
Yes.
But we're going to carry on. So, oh my goodness, where do we start? Guys, as always, every single guest I bring onto the show, I could talk to for hours. So we're just going to focus in on the origin story, the journey, the founder story, as some people call it, of what made Imran decide to quit his corporate job in finance in 2010 and walk away from a very nice salary and a good, stable career path. What made him decide to do this, to make sweets?
So I suppose I wanted to get into investment banking. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but then I saw the guys playing around with numbers and stuff, and all of these screens and funky jackets that they used to wear on the actual physical trading floors back in the day. And so I decided to go into investment banking and trading, and almost stumbled into it, I suppose, because it's so different to what it is now. And I started working at Merrill Lynch initially. That's where my career started. And along the way, I kind of became reliant on this sort of like escalator to nowhere, kind of just on a hamster wheel, making lots of money, but not kind of losing your soul along the way. And eventually I sort of stumbled into an opportunity when I was dating someone who loved sweets, and I was trying to impress her by buying her sweets that I could give to her as a gift without any gelatin in there, because she was vegetarian. And I just thought, I'm leaving my job. I'm going to quit. I'm going to start this sweet company. And that's what happened in 2010 when I eventually left.
Hang on, let me just interrupt you guys. Did you catch that? Quit his job to make sweets to impress a lady. Carry on.
It sounds mad now when I think back. I think I was just kind of working away and not knowing where this was taking me. There's no passion in what I was doing. I was kind of lost and confused. But then you're making lots of money, so you kind of just buy things and you do all of the lavish lifestyle that's associated with working in banking, not sort of like realizing that it's soul destroying. And I was just, when I started dating this ex-girlfriend now, actually, I was online trying to find sweets that I could give to her as a gift, because we'd walk around Woolworths and she couldn't eat all the good sweets like the cola bottles and stuff because they had gelatin in there. And I didn't know what gelatin was. I was just like oblivious to it. And then I found out it's melted pig, sheep, cows, all of the horrible stuff that you don't normally eat. And so I was online one day and randomly came across a report from the British Library on sweet market, realized there's an opportunity there. And eventually just thought, as I got more and more immersed in this whole confectionery business, I kind of thought, why don't I do something? Why don't I just start a sweet business that are vegetarian? That's where the idea came from. It wasn't planned really. It was just kind of just happened.
I love this. So just for the benefit of the people watching, when Imran said he went to the British Library and found this article, this was because in 2010, this is how research was done in the library. You didn't go on the internet and say, hey, Google, tell me about the sweet market. Tell me how many people in what countries buy it. Tell me what is gelatine. Tell me what is this. Like, it just didn't exist. So this guy started a business just over 10 years ago now, or 10, is it 10 years this year?
Yeah, it's 10 years now, actually. It's such a long journey. I suppose you don't realize what you're getting yourself into when you start a business. I think if you did, you probably wouldn't start it, because it is one of the most challenging things you'll ever do. Because there is a roadmap. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's market is different. There's so many different factors that you have to take into account. So yeah, it's not a breeze.
No, I think that this is an awesome point for my audience, because we have been talking so much recently about finding your passion, changing your career. Some people have sort of been made redundant in the 2020 reset, if you like, and some people have just woken up to, what the heck am I doing with my life? I don't want to do this anymore. So you're kind of our inspiration and proof that it is possible to do something different. You can crazily leave a stable, secure job. I did the same, to just follow your guidance and your intuition. So, okay, then let's go into you're following your guidance, your intuition, and you're sort of doing the things. Reality sets in, the real world. What did you do when you hit the hurdles and it was like, what have I done? I don't know how to do this. Oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, so I think, like, going into business is very different to when you work in, say, a normal organization or a bank or in finance, because although you're technically trained and you understand the macro sort of like aspects of like being a part of a big organization, that's not so different to a startup, because you have to do everything yourself, and you don't realize. You kind of think, it's like taking one step after another. You don't really have a clear path. You might design a business plan and go and do the research and stuff like that. But the reality is, things don't go in a normal way. It's not like a computer where that you put in an input and you get an output. You're dealing with lots of different people. So all of a sudden you have to sort of figure out what their motivations are. Why should they help you? Why should they support you? And at the end of the day, you have no credibility. You're a nobody, and you've got to almost sort of start from scratch.
And there isn't really a roadmap for this, but let's just sort of suggest to the audience a couple of books that maybe have benefited us along the journey. So for me, I would have to say The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I wish I'd read that when I started 8 years ago or 7 years ago, because that would have just been super helpful. That explains the very top level roles within an organization. So literally you have left your job and you are a subject matter expert in one thing. You start a business and you are freaking in charge of everything. So Michael Gerber in E-Myth Revisited really highlights the different roles, and he also massively highlights some of the chit chat that goes on in our head and the imposter syndrome when we suddenly kind of acknowledge, oh my gosh, I'm in charge of this. I'm head of buying the loo rolls. I'm head of buying the tea and the coffee and the biscuits, as well as the product, the client, the marketing, the pitching, the website, and the list goes on. So what would you say is a book that you really think helped you on the journey and you still recommend to people? Because I'm imagining people come to you all the time and say, how started, what can I do?
A book that I read quite regularly, at least once a year, is The Intelligent Entrepreneur. And that's a really interesting book because it talks about the journey of three founders of three various businesses, and then the lessons as well as to what they did and how you can try and put those into practice. I think also the main thing, like having a business partner that has different skill sets. So my co-founder, Taz Sunia, he is a chartered accountant, and he's very different to the way I am. And I think having a co-founder sort of helps you sort of bounce ideas and also to do the things that you're not good at, because you can't do everything. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
Sorry to interrupt. I would love to know, did you bring him on from the start, or did you have to sort of find a co-founder? Because this is one of the interesting things maybe for the audience that don't know too much about this. as you're growing a business and you want to get investment, they tend to prefer businesses that are a team rather than just a one-person band. So when did you kind of bring on the co-founder? Was it from the get-go, or?
Initially, I started the business. It was a different name and a different brand, and I started doing the research, started going to trade shows around the world. And then eventually one day, like, I've known Taz since university, and we've always spoken about business. And he was looking to buy a sweet business, an e-commerce sweet business. And then he sort of mentioned to me, he was like, look, I know you've been thinking about sweets and going into that as a business. Why don't we sort of like think about doing this together? And so it's very sort of I had done a lot of the research, but then we kind of thought, well, actually, we could probably use each other's skills to do something together and make it a bit more fun.
Wow. And that's amazing. And that's another lesson in all of this, that you just stick to what you want to do, and the universe is going to fix everything. Like friend from university. Oh, I want to buy a sweet business. Oh, I want to start a sweet business. Oh, isn't that a coincidence? Let's do it.
Yeah, this happens all the time in life. Like when you think about all of the journey, like on the journey you're on, if you take a left turn or a right turn, how different your life would have been. And you can only do that when you look back on your life. And same with business. It's like you can distinctly remember certain times where there's a fork in the road and you've taken a different route to the one that you thought you should have, and it's led to where you are now.
So guys, if you've got any questions for Imran, put them in the chat, because this is an amazing opportunity to ask a really seasoned entrepreneur, but otherwise I am going to carry on. So I would really love to know, let's look at your biggest lessons that you've learned along the journey, and maybe if you could share 2 that were sort of positive lessons and 2 maybe that were negative lessons, so that we really get a balance of things.
Challenges to overcome. I think not knowing about the industry and how it works and how it operates. I think if I'd known about that, or had people who knew about that from the beginning, like we went to saw the Innocent guys when we first started out, and they sort of gave some really good advice. Because before that, like when you're in the city 10 years ago or 12, 13 years ago, entrepreneurship wasn't something that's easily accessible. It was just, you kind of, Goo and Innocent were sort of like in the mix of things, but there wasn't this like mass sort of exodus towards like, oh, entrepreneurship is like the rock and roll of like the modern era kind of thing.
If you wanted to be an entrepreneur in those days. I keep saying to people, this is why I didn't start what I did, because all I had on the shelf was Richard Branson. And I was like, well, I don't look a thing like him, and I don't really understand how his mind works, so I'm just going to stay in the city. So okay, so overcoming the hurdle of like learning new stuff.
I think so that was probably one of the hardest things. I remember one of my mentors introduced me to my first entrepreneur that I came across, Fleur Emery, actually her name is, and she was an entrepreneur. She started a porridge company which she sold to Waitrose, and she was just explaining, look, I'm making porridge, it's simple porridge, and the complications of that. And we were just like, whoa, this is like complicated, making sweets and stuff like that. Because at that point we hadn't started making sweets. So we sort of, from that first moment, we decided not to make them ourselves and to look for someone who can make sweets for us. So that was a interesting lesson. I think when you speak to other entrepreneurs, you'll get lots of insight, especially these days. Everyone's been there, done it. There's so much information available. Whereas 10 years ago, there was hardly anything available. So you had to almost figure it out yourself.
Because one of the hurdles that people come up with is, but they're not going to want to speak to me, and I don't think I can speak to them because I might embarrass myself. What is your answer to that?
I think if you don't try, you don't know, and you've got to ask. Otherwise, if you don't ask, you sit there and no one's going to sort of volunteer that information or that advice. You have to go after what you want in life. That's with anything. Like even if you're sort of trying to learn to run the marathon, like you have to start by getting off the couch and going for a run, putting on those trainers, doing that. It's just one step at a time. And I think the same with business. It's one thing after another. You just go, right, okay, this is my plan. What is the next step? Okay, I need to do this. Okay, fine. You do that, and then you go, okay, what's the next step? It's literally the best way to do it is have a vision of where you want to go. Think deep and hard about what your big dream is, and then work backwards and plot it out. Initially with, say, 5 steps. what are the 5 steps that, if starting from where you are now to where you want to get to, what are those 5 steps that could take you there? And then once you've got those sort of steps, then you break those down into smaller sort of like steps. And then every day, just take a step forward. Whatever it is, write 3 things down. Every single day, do those 3 things. And then you start building up momentum, confidence, belief, all of those various things. And then before you know it, you're like, actually, I've come so far. And that's when the magic starts happening. When you start looking back and you're going, wow, I've actually learned quite a lot.
I love that you're sharing this, because quite a lot of the people watching are in something I'm running at the moment called the 25-day reset. And every month they're setting 2 goals and they're breaking them down and they're working towards those goals. And they are doing exactly what you're saying. So I'm like, guys, I haven't just made this up. This wasn't just my crazy idea that I was like, oh, let's just do it. It is step by step, because otherwise, I mean, what is that adage? How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. It would just overwhelm you how much you have to do. So let's sort of look a bit further along the journey then, because obviously as a business grows, you then start to get the different types of problems. So bringing on staff, how has this gone? Sending to other countries, packaging, this is a huge one as well. Your website, deciding how to do the website. So have you got any lessons around the next phase of scaling and growing?
I think the first thing is to make sure your product's working. When it's on the shelves, are people naturally picking up that product? Is there enough awareness? Does it solve a real problem for your consumers? And I think if something's not working, like for us, initially we launched into Selfridges, that they were our first customer. Then we got into Harrods, Harvey Nichols, and it was a gifting product. And it was very different to what we expected, because when we were there standing in the stores, sampling our sweets, we would get people interested, trying the products and buying it. But when we weren't there, because there was no brand awareness, people wouldn't necessarily pick up off the shelves. And we had to figure out why this was, because we spent a lot of money on a branding agency who kind of helped us figure this out, and it wasn't working. And you kind of almost have to figure out what's wrong, and then kind of realize there's no sort of like messaging as to what's in the box. It's a very nice box, but there's no pictures of sweets, so people don't know what it is. There's all of these other challenges, and then you figure out one step again. It's like, okay, that's not working. What can we do to make a difference? Then you put sweets on the front of the box, and then you're like, okay, fine. Why is it still not selling as much? Because it's very expensive compared to all the other sweets. Okay, there's all of these little steps that you sort of have to go through, and I think it's just looking at what's working in, say, for example, when we looked at competitors on the supermarket shelves, we were like, okay, they're sold in bags, we're sold in boxes. There's a big mismatch there. We need to figure out how we can get to selling sweets in bags versus boxes. And that's a different journey in itself, because the volumes that are required to buy the film, the designing aspect of it, all of these other things come into play. And so that's another headache that you have to deal with.
Let's just at this point show some of the sweets. So this is my packet of tangy worms that I've half eaten. So this is a small bag, and then obviously there's share bags if you want to share them. And
these are share bags, yep.
You are going to have a chance to win some of these for a friend for the holidays. So stick around to find out how to do that. But yeah, it's so, I mean, it's really bright. The product is there, the words, obviously they're vegan sweets as well. So, and I think this is a big thing for the audience to understand. Trial and error, but testing and asking is the only way. And in order to grow whatever you want to do, you have to get out of the way yourself. You have to remove yourself. What are they going to think about me? Do I look dumb? Yada, yada, all of the chitter chatter in your head. Focus on your goal. So then tell us about, what do they think about me? Pitch rich. Talk to us about that you're pitching Richard Branson. OMG.
That was probably one of the scariest moments, because I randomly saw a competition online. It was Pitch to Richard Branson. It's called Pitch to Rich. And so I thought, right, I'm going to enter. I mean, what's there to lose? And we entered, and we had to basically get public to vote. There was like probably hundreds of brands out there who were all asking for nominations. And we just managed to get through to the last, I think it was the last 10 initially. Got voting, got down to then eventually the last 4, and and then the price. I mean, the price back in those days, it wasn't a lot of money. It was just the endorsement of Richard Branson. And I remember the first time we actually saw him, because growing up, you sort of read about Richard Branson, you saw him on TV growing up, and you sort of put this guy like this sort of bigger than life character onto a pedestal. And then when I saw him for the first time, it was like, oh, it was quite scary. He sort of walked past me and sort of said hello. And then we had to sort of stand in front of, like, I think there's an audience of 200 people to pitch live to Richard Branson. And yeah, that was amazing. Actually, that was such a weird thing to sort of see one of your sort of like idols, and then sort of actually when you sort of meet him in person and have a conversation, you kind of realize actually he's a really nice guy, down to earth, just like a normal person. Really, he's just followed his dreams, he's followed his passions, and he's just stuck at it. And he's just, even though he's dyslexic and he's got his own challenges and stuff like that, he's managed to make such an amazing business.
And not all of them have succeeded. This is the other thing. But equally now, just because his name is to them doesn't necessarily mean that they're him. But he's been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years now. And this is just the proof of the results compound. Amazing. But so just for the benefit of this audience, and then for other sort of entrepreneurial audiences that are listening in, oh yeah, we pitched Rich. Let's go into we pitched him. How many hours did you practice that pitch before? How many slides were you pitching? And was it like you get a 10-minute pitch? Did you practice for 10 days, 10 weeks?
Initially, we had to create a video for, I think it was a minute video, to sort of pitch the idea initially, to upload onto the, and that took me, I think it was like 7 or 8 hours just to get it right, because you had to get everything succinctly within a minute. That was a nightmare. That was very challenging. And then when we actually got through to the final, we had a coach that sort of helped us craft our pitch. And so we sort of created that, spent hours and hours on like days doing that. And then on the day, the coach was like, actually, I think you need to change the first bit of it. And then I had to sort of remember my lines and stuff. And that was challenging. And then I saw Richard Branson, and it was like, that was a bit scary.
And then all sorts of things can happen as well. Like the room is cold, or the room is hot, or the audience is unsettled, or there were traffic or train delays, and the vibe is just not happy, or so you're juggling so many things. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so important for people to understand that what you see in public has been practiced in private for ages, and people only look as good as they look because of the time and the effort and the practice that they've put in. So doing all of these things is simple. It's freaking simple. Like Imran could write a book about it. I said, we did this and we did this and we did this, but it's not easy, because you have to become the person that can deliver this. You have to be able to keep your stuff together in front of an idol who like is world renowned in front of a room of 200 people on a panel of other people who also want to win as well. It's like kudos to you for even being able to do that, because that's something that would have to take me, like as a speaker on stages, it would take me out of my comfort zone massively to pitch the room.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a sort of like getting thrown in the deep end. And I think that was probably my first time actually having to speak to such a big audience. And I suppose you just get on with it, don't you? You sort of like get your nerves together and you go, right, okay, what's there to lose? I'm human at the end of the day. Even if I do make a mistake, it is what it is. Like, it's like when you watch Dragon's Den and people just sort of forget what they're saying. They're so nervous. That's one thing, I suppose. Once you have confidence in what you're doing and you believe it and you're passionate about what you're doing, then it's a lot easier to just get it out there. You're like, well, it is what it is. This is who I am. I can't sort of like negate the faults and sort of like the sort of things that I don't like about myself or whatever it is. This is me. This is real. There's no messing around. It's not like what you see on TV and stuff, where everyone seems to be like the actors and actresses. They've rehearsed over and over and over again over years and years and years, so they look like they're doing things perfectly. And the amount of takes and recuts, you don't get the chance to do that in business or real life. But it is what it is. You have to just get on with it and figure out a way of making it happen. So I think when you think like that, it's different.
It's amazing. Well, it's testament to the journey that you've been on and the person that you've become. Tell us about your 2021 plans, because obviously 2020 has been crazy. So how much have you had to pivot, change, up level in the business to maybe get really the online show going like a well-oiled machine? What are you planning for 2021?
I think it's global domination. We want to basically take over. I think what we've realized, the pandemic has made people realize that eating real food, eating plant-based, balanced diets, trying to be healthy, not just with what you eat, but also with like socializing with people, like having conversations, like mental health, the planet, all of these things make a difference. Like you need to have a balance in all of these areas. And so for us, we've kind of realized that one thing that is really we're passionate about is like the planet. Like we all live and breathe the same air, drink the same water and stuff, regardless of the boundaries and borders that we are sort of like that have been enforced on us. So if a country is polluting over there, it's affecting us, even though we might be doing something here. So it's like you've got to take a stance globally as one kind of thing. And so for us as a business, we're very keen on sort of like trying to sort of become more sort of environmentally conscious, like healthier, trying to create products that are like more balanced, plant-based. So those are the sort of things that we're looking at.
Just talk to us about the sweets then, the ingredients in the sweets. So you've said plant-based, but just for the audience then, so these are made of plants.
So yeah, so most sweets contain gelatin, which is it's basically all the parts of animals that you don't necessarily would eat. So cartilage, bones, all crushed up, grinded, and it looks like breadcrumbs, but it's actually just parts of bodies of animals.
Let's call it meat parts. Boiled up into a liquid. So what else is in sweets?
So they put that kind of stuff in there. They'll put artificial colors and flavors and chemicals and things like that. It's all ground up and then it's sort of made. So what we do, we've taken out all of the gelatin and all of the nasty stuff that you get, the gunk and junk that you get in traditional sweets. There's no artificial colors or flavors, and that's how we make them. So they're made with plants and things like that, really.
So these are much better for us. And so I have to say, I don't really eat sweets, but if I do eat sweets, I eat these sweets because I know what's in them. So love them. And the tangy worms are my favorite.
Those are really good. That's the thing. I try not to eat as many as I used to because I get so addicted. As soon as I have one, it's like, oh my God, now I know why I still do this. Because that's the thing. Like, you get so high in your own supplies, they say. You don't want to keep eating them. And when we first started the business, I just had sweets for breakfast, lunch, dinner. They were just around us, and it was just like such a novelty to have sweets everywhere. It was amazing.
Well, they're part of your 5 a day, aren't they?
One day, hopefully. So in 2021, I think the plan is we've got some new products launching. We've got some sour beans. We've got some foam sweets, which are plant-based as well. They are amazing, and they will differentiate us from other sort of competitors now, because I think we started off as being a vegetarian sweet company, and then we decided to become vegan before it became trendy, because we wanted to have more people who were on a vegan diet to sort of enjoy the sweets. Because you've got to remember, veganism has been around in India, for example, or other parts of the world for centuries. It's only just become trendy in the Western world. So we were like trying to target be more inclusive to other people outside of religious sort of like requirements and things like that. And so we became vegan 5 years ago, before it became trendy. And so now there's so many, you see lots of competitors now jumping in, trying to sort of like muscle their way in with marketing spend and this and the other. So what we're trying to do is differentiate ourselves by making better quality sweets, making different types of sweets, so different textures, mouthfeel, all of these various things. So that's one way. And then also we've got sugar-free sweets that are without any sugar. So if you want to eat sweets but don't want to have all of the calories that go with sugar, we've created sugar-free version as well. We're looking at reduced sugar. Yeah, so yeah, they're amazing. So that's what we're doing. And then also we're just launched into the USA, and so we've got partners over there on the East Coast and the West Coast, and so now we're developing our range of sweets over there. We're launching into Australia, just launched into South Korea. So it's about sort of getting our distribution increased around the world, and also spending and growing our marketing. I think that's a key thing. That's probably one of the hardest things actually, is marketing. It's a challenge. So
exciting. Well, 2021, watch this space. So guys, as I said to you, Imran and Jealous Sweets have gifted us some sweets to give away. So let me bring this up. The giveaway is, you will need to go onto social media and tag a friend to win. So this is 2020 is all about supporting others and giving to others. So tag a friend to win a box. So this is like lots of packets in a box to win a box of these sweets, and use the hashtag Jealous Christmas. Hashtag Jealous Christmas. Otherwise, we won't know that you have done this. I'll share the post on my Instagram, which is abarnesauthor. I'll also share it on my Twitter, which is abarnesauthor. And you can then share this and tag your friends. And we've also got more information about this on our website. So the link for this is bit.ly/12 days of Christmas PW. bit.ly/12 days of Christmas PW. And hopefully somebody can put that in the comments for us. So someone's asking, where can you buy them in the UK? So they are for sale on the website Jealous Sweets.
They're also available in Asda, Holland & Barrett, Whole Foods, Booths, and loads of independents.
Amazing. So you can buy them in the shops as well. So I guess just get online and Google, where can I buy Jealous Sweets? And we will let you know more about this giveaway. And at the end of our 12 days of Christmas, we'll be announcing the winner of this giveaway. And Imran has decided to give away 2 boxes. So 2 people's friends can win a box for Christmas. So you are going to literally be like the best friend ever if you win this for your friend. And they might even give you a pack. So who knows? But there we go. Oh, I've lost Imran. Let me get him back.
I'm back.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. It's so helpful and giving us sort of a bit of a behind the scenes, behind the curtain. As I said at the start, this conversation could go on for hours. There's so many more questions I would love to ask, but to keep it concise for you guys today, this is the start of it all. So Imran, where can we connect with you? And then where can we find out more about Jealous Sweets?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Imran Merza, and you can connect with the brand on Instagram at The Jealous Life. And where else can you connect? Yeah, so those are the main places, or www.thejealouslife.com, which is where our website. And so, yeah, you can find more information on there as well.
Awesome. And we'll, as always, leave the links in the posts afterwards. So guys, thank you so much for joining us live. And if you're watching on the replay, let us know in the comments what you took away from this amazing, insightful and inspiring conversation. Tomorrow, we have got a comedian, performer and corporate trainer coming onto the show. And I cannot wait to meet him because I've watched his YouTube video and he's really funny. And it's my sense of humor. So I'm just so excited. If you've been following me on the show from the start of the year, you'll know we've talked about comedy and what's my sense of humor. You'll see him tomorrow. He's called Tom and he is freaking awesome. So we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. because it's Friday. I can't believe it's day 4. This week has just flown by. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep washing those hands.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Abigail.